So, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. And happy Friday Eve. So, I have been waiting all day to do this video, you guys. This is a video that I think a lot of y'all have been waiting for and waiting for me to talk about. And ironically, I just received a message on this dating app. A very disturbing message, shall I say, from a very young man, very attractive black man, shall I say, who sent this message to me on this dating app that I am on. What's up, John? And hi, everyone, you guys. How is everyone doing today, by the way? So, I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. So he says, this is how people introduce themselves on dating apps, by the way. And people ask me, oh, you're 37, you're beautiful, no kids, you're so successful, why are you single? Right here, messages like this is what we're doing now in 2021. So this is his introduction. This is the first message he sent. He says, can you step on my balls with some heels? He just went straight to the punch. No warm up. No, hey, how are you? No easing his way in there. No small talk, as they say, just straight to the punch. Can you step on my balls with some heels? I know you're a PhD student and it pretty much pays for itself, but I could still offer cash. I saw you were into BDSM and so I decided to take a chance. That and the reason I'm typing this long paragraph solely to meet your message minimum, which yes, I do have a message minimum on this particular dating site because I get so many messages. So I have to filter out bullshit. And I figure, listen, if I want to invest my time in getting to know a guy, then hopefully it's going to be a person that is worthwhile, and this person is also going to be invested into getting to know me and putting in the work, putting in the effort, not just saying, hey, yo, what's up? What's up, little mama? What's up? Or, hey, beautiful. That's like men's favorite line, hey, beautiful. Like, can you say a little bit more? Like, can you say something that pulls me into a conversation, right? Like, I'm clearly an intellectual. I clearly like to talk about a range of different things. I mean, hello, nobody goes for a PhD with a pea brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, usually we are thinkers, deep philosophical thinkers. So I like to engage in conversation. And that's what irks me oftentimes on these dating apps. It's just like, man, don't be talking about nothing. But this did catch my attention. So it inspired this video. And I'm like, this is not the first message I've received like this, because I've gotten requests like this before from men who are like wanting me to be a dominant female towards them, right? And it's funny because I just made a video about this. The other day about submissive white men wanting to be dominated. And I said, y'all recall this? I said in the video that, oh, black men really don't send me messages like that asking me to dominate them. But I guess I spoke too soon because, look, I do get messages like this, but usually it's from, like, white men, like, oh, can you step on my balls? And granted, by the way, that is a type of fetish within the arena of BDSM. BDSM stands for bondage, discipline, sadomasochism, or bondage, discipline, submission, bondage, dominant, submission, sadomasochism, right? And it does involve a variety of practices, fetishes, so many different dynamics within the lifestyle. So just because a person says they identify themselves as a BDSM practitioner or they're interested in BDSM, you cannot assume what they like, right? I think it's better to just ask, how do you identify yourself within the area of BDSM as opposed to assuming. So he just went straight he just went straight to the punch and just assumed that I'm like into being a dom. And I guess maybe that's a trend, I guess, in BDSM, where women do kind of take on that role, because in our society, right, women have usually kind of been subjugated to the submissive role, right, and having to be subservient to men. And so being a dominant female kind of gives women the freedom to, I guess, gain a sense of power and control through that particular role of being able to dominate and have control and power over a man. But for me, I gain my sense of power and control by being a submissive. Like, that's also freeing for me. I've talked about this in numerous videos on why I am attracted to being a submissive, right? And for me, it's not like a role. It's not a role play, right? For me, it's real. You know what I'm saying? This is who I am. This is my personality. This is my character. This is how I am in relation to a man, which maybe y'all don't really get to see because I've been single for a while, you know? Like, if you guys can go back to 2017. God damn, that seems so long ago. We're in 2021, but if you guys kind of backtrack, because I was a vlogger back then, 2017. I think I really started 2014, 2015, and I really picked it up like 2016, I think, when I moved to LA. But I was in a relationship with a dominant man back in 2014, from 2014 to 2017. So for you guys who were following me back then, you guys to see, like, you kind of probably will see, like, some of that play out. But I wasn't, like, he didn't like to be, like, on camera. So it's very little that you guys were able to see. But I think because men don't really get to see me in that submissive role, they just automatically assume that I'm a dominant female. And yes, I can be dominant, you know, in my professional career, like in my role as a developing psychologist. But when it comes to a man, I'm a baby girl. But this fetish here, I find to be quite interesting to see. And I want to engage you guys in this discussion to see, like, what is it? I have, of course, my belief, I have my assumptions about what can motivate a man to want to be stepped on. And of course, as a submissive woman, like, I can identify with that because I'm also a masochist, right? And masochists basically are people, could be man or woman, intersex or transgender or what have you, who basically derive pleasure from pain. I know that may sound weird, but some of us have tapped into that inner space within ourselves to be able to kind of appreciate certain aspects of our psychology and the way that our body and our mind is made, right? Like, sometimes I think as people, sometimes we just kind of like, we dismiss it, we brush it off. But if you're a person that's really tapped into the human psyche, to our experience as human beings, like how we exist, how we experience pain, pleasure, like emotions, like you're tapped into your emotions, like even the so-called negative emotions, even the so-called negative experiences, like you could be able to find pleasure within those things. And so for me, and I'm going to go kind of deep into this, you guys, a little deep. You say it can go both ways. You got to be very specific, because what is it? I don't know what it is. I don't know what you're talking about. So you have to be specific when you kind of make statements like that. Especially when we are live, because you guys know there is a time lapse, maybe of 20 seconds or so, between what I say, when you guys hear it, and then when you respond. So I'm already on something else probably, and I'm like, what are you talking about? But anyway, so for me, like, I do derive pleasure from pain, more specifically like BDSM spankings. Some people call them maintenance spankings. I like to call them discipline spankings. But maintenance spankings is basically like a spanking that a dom can give a sub just to let her know, or him know, it can be male or female, that, okay, this is your place, right? Just so that you maintain the desired behavior that the dom is expecting, whatever that may be, whatever is agreed upon. Of course, this is all mutual consent. And by the way, this video is for mature audiences only. I mean, that goes without saying. So I like BDSM spankings. Like, for me, when I say spankings, like, it's just, I made videos about this before, okay? So this is not my first time talking about this. I made whole entire videos just talking about BDSM spankings and my proclivity towards them. But I love them. Like, it's just, it's life for me. And there are many different ways we can kind of dissect this thing here, right? This thing, meaning this message that was sent to me, and the fetish of men, because he's not the only one. He shares this fetish with many other men who love, right? Who love for a woman to just crumble their balls. It's just like, just step on their balls with heels. Like, ouch. Just like, how, why? You know? I mean, there's so many ways that you can derive pleasure from pain, but why your scrotum? Right? Like, that's supposed to be the most sensitive part of a man's body. I mean, at least I thought it was. Just the same thing with the woman's breasts, right? Our breast is like likened to your scrotum, your balls. Is like for you to specifically want a woman to go to that area of your body, like out of any other place. I still don't know what you're talking about, John. I'm sorry. You saying BDSM can go both ways. Like, what, though? In relation to what? Relation to what? I'm trying to wrap my mind around it, right? Like, of course, I can explain, you know, how and why I derive my pleasure from pain. And I think, of course, it can have a psychological root, and it can have a neurobiological root. So I'll talk about, like, the neurology of it, right? And this is in every human being. We all have a pain pleasure center in our brain, located in our brain. So when we experience pain, automatically our brain does this miraculous thing where it releases neurochemicals throughout our body to ease the pain. Have you ever noticed, like, when you stub your toe, when any kind of pain sensation happens in your body, wherever it happens, even if you get a toothache. Now, toothache is like the worst kind of pain. I remember a neighborhood friend saying, yo, and this was a guy, right? It's a dude from the hood. He was like, yo, I would rather get shot than have a toothache. And I was just like, for real. I never been shot, but everybody, like, if you ever had a toothache, that shit is the most excruciating freaking pain that I think a person can experience next to maybe childbirth. And I don't even know what that's like because I had never had kids, but I've seen videos and it just looks like so painful. Like, it just takes you out of your body, you know? Like, you have to disassociate yourself from the physical realm just to be able to bear it, you know? So we know there's many different levels of pain. But when we experience pain, like, our body, like, takes care of us. And the body is just a miraculous thing in and of itself, right? Like, aside from pain and pleasure, we know the body is a self-healing organism, right? Like, it's just, it takes care of itself. So it's just amazing to see how, like, yes, our body has these sensory receptors where, like, if we're around something that's too hot, we feel it. We recognize, okay, this is too hot, you know? We experience pain. Our body sends signals to our brain to let us know, like, this thing is not good for us, right? But then on the same token, it also calms us down. Like, we have these self-soothing mechanisms built in within our biology, our biological makeup, and our neurology, right? Which is the brain. That basically takes care of us, you know, it soothes us, it makes us feel better, it releases these neurochemicals, endorphins, these endogenous opioids in our body that are released that help us kind of manage the pain so that we really don't feel it. And dopamine is released. So it's just like, I think for people who like pain, I think they like pleasure just as much as they like pain. So that's like, two sides of the same coin, basically, where yes, they do things to reach that pain sensation, right? But also on the flip side of that, they know they're going to experience a release from that pain or relief from that pain, which is pleasure. And not only that, but to be able to control it. I think that is the biggest thing, I think, within this fetish here, right? When it comes to masochism. That, and please, if you have a different perspective, please feel free to share. But I think that's what it is, and I know I can speak from my own personal experience that that's definitely what it is for me. For me though, I think it's the pain that I like to feel. Like, I like to feel the pain and to know that I have control over the pain. Now, we can look at it from a psychological perspective, and one may say, oh, well, it has to be something that you experience throughout your development in your life that has led to you to have this craving of this kind of experience, right, that produces pain and then pleasure. What happened to you? What in the world happened to you that kind of created this template in your mind and your memory that you're kind of seeking, you want to revisit, over and over again? It had to be something that obviously left an imprint, right? Because you remember it, and not only do you remember it, but you remember it in a way that you derive pleasure from it. So you're trying to seek that same pleasure. You want to kind of recreate that experience. So, I've said this before. I can be a bit transparent. So most of you guys know that, yes, I did grow up in a two-parent household with a mother and a father. My mom was a disciplinarian of the household. She was very strict. Strict is probably an understatement. Like, my mom did not play the freaking radio. And we got slave beatings. That's how I look at it, Like, that's just what I call them, because that's how I felt. I felt like a slave, where, we had to strip down, butt naked, minus the underwear. We were able to keep our underwear on at least, but still, like just in panties, and lay across the bed and get beaten. Not just spankings, and kids these days don't know nothing about that. You know what I'm saying? Because of course we have Child Protective Services, and they have upped their game. You know what I'm saying? They ain't really playing when it comes to child abuse, even though they say corporal punishment is legal, but it's not really legal. You know what I'm saying? If marks are left, and that's what the case was back then. My mama had always said, she was like, listen, if you go to the white man gonna do you worse. So that like put fear in our heart. I know in my heart, you know what I'm saying? So I never, of course, called the people or my mom, but those beatings were excruciating. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were painful. I hated them back then. But fast forward to me being an adult, it's like I like them. And I think I always kind of had fantasies on a man doing it to me. Like, imagining a man giving me a beating, because my mom was the one to do it. My dad never hit me, though. My dad was like, he never had to. His stature was enough for me to straighten up, right? Like, I would never, when it came to my dad. But I think my mom, and even I wasn't a bad kid. I think my mom, she was just like she overdid it. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was like very strict. And it, I think, did leave an imprint on me. Like, it did leave an imprint on my psyche, to where that's something that I crave, throughout my life. And even, like I said, I can remember, like, being a young girl and just having fantasies about, like, what it's like for a man to restrain me, right? To tie me up and to just beat me. And that's some deep shit right there, right? Because I think, like, you know, our minds are very fascinating, right? The way our minds work, it's amazing. That's why I went to go to psychology, because, you know, when it's a person, a caretaker, right, who's taking care of you, nurturing you, feeding you, sheltering you, right? You came from this person's womb, right? They're your mother. And at the same time, like, they are also causing physical pain to your body, right? Sometimes, like, the brain just cannot differentiate between the two. The love in terms of, you know, the care, feeding, and shelter, and clothing, and, you know, to the physical pain, which my mom interprets as love. Most black parents do. You know, they look at that, okay, I'm disciplining my child, protecting my child from the world, basically, and teaching them about how to survive, what it's going to be like in the world, right? So that can be, on their perspective, considered to be love, but really, it's not. You know what I'm saying? It's pain. It's very painful, and it leaves a bad mark, I think, on a person's psyche. And so, being that it's hard to make that differentiation between that kind of pain, right? You know, the love, the nurture, the care, and then the physical pain, in terms of the discipline, it's like they kind of mesh with each other. And that's what a person seeks. Like, that becomes like the prototype, right? That becomes, you know what I'm saying, the template for their understanding of what love looks like. And I think I crave that from a man, because it's like, okay, if my mom loved me in this way, why not my dad love me in that way? As a child, but you don't really understand it until you get older, and you realize, like, okay, well, my dad, he did love me. He loved me in his own way. Like, my dad spoiled the shit out of me. That was his way of loving me. But I think part of the way a person, like a child of a mind, I mean, the mind of a child, how they kind of make sense of it, you know, like, subconsciously, it's just like, okay, this is love, and it's very intense, right? And sometimes that's like the more memorable type of love, right? Like, I talk a lot, you guys seen like my videos, I talk a lot about, like, growing up getting beatings, and, you know, I do talk a lot about my dad too, because I love my dad and being spoiled, and of course I can't forget that either, you know, but it's interesting. And so, looking at this fetish, I think that's one way a person can interpret it, aside from the neurobiological conceptualization of why a person seeks that kind of pain, is because, like, you have control over those neurochemicals in your brain that are released throughout your body, and it's just like almost self-medicating in a way, right? Subconsciously, you know? I mean, it's no wonder why people engage in, like, thrill-seeking behaviors like skydiving, you know, or bungee jumping and skateboarding and doing all these things, because it's like it releases that adrenaline, and adrenaline is like makes you feel good, you know, and to have control over that release, it's just like, you know, it's a feeling that sets you into a really good space. But this, like, I'm having a conversation with you guys here because I would like to understand this a little bit more from a male's perspective, from men who actually are into this fetish, right? Who seek and desire a woman to step on their balls with heels. Now, I'm thinking about a heel itself, right? I don't wear heels, by the way, but I have put my feet in some heels before. And I know what they look like, and I know that they can be pretty sharp depending on the heel, but you can do some damage. You can crush a lot of things with heels. You can crush an egg, a hard-boiled egg with some heels. Like, you can pierce things with heels. You can pierce meat. You know what I'm saying? If you had, let's say you had a chicken, and you step on a raw chicken, a heel can pierce through the chicken. So, trying to visualize, like, what it actually looks like for a man to get his balls stepped on by a woman wearing heels. And I'm like, I don't know what I look like to you guys on video, but I am a tall woman. I would say slim, but I do got some meat in some areas. I'm pretty kind of solid. Like, I'm built a bit solid, right? And I haven't weighed myself lately, but if I could guess, I weigh anywhere between 165, maybe 170, maybe a little bit over, maybe, give or take. That's some weight. You know what I'm saying? So for a man to say, oh, can you step on my balls, and he's offering payment? I'm just like, first of all, no. I mean, I didn't even reply. I actually blocked him. I noticed that he had sent me a follow-up message just like, oh, what's up? Nothing is up. First of all, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in that role. Like, I'm a masochist myself. So I'm just not interested. And I remember my last video that I made on white submissive men and, like, what do they gain by a woman dominating them, because another man has sent me a message recently asking me, can I dominate him? And I'm just like, I'm not interested. He was a white guy. And someone gonna follow up and leave a comment saying, oh, it's not that they want to date you. I don't care. I'm not in, like, to me, that's anything involving something that, first of all, we're having a physical interaction with each other. Why would I set myself up in that? I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm only engaging in that kind of interaction with somebody that I'm seriously involved with, or I'm interested in, or I connect with on a certain level, you know, spiritual level, emotional level. Like, I'm not just out here just experimenting and trying this and trying that. I can talk about it very freely, and I like to have discussions like this, but that's just not where I'm at. I don't think anybody can pay me any amount of money to do that, because it's not even about the money. It's just about, what do I gain? Money? I don't need money. I don't need your money, though. That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, money is not hard to come by. So it's not about the money. It's about, what do I gain from it? Like, I don't gain anything by pleasuring you. I'm offering pleasure to you by stepping on your balls, putting on some heels and just stepping on your balls. Like, that doesn't give me pain. If anything, that makes me cringe. Clearly. So I think people just waste their time. Maybe they just like to send these messages because maybe they want to hear me talk about it. But this was on a dating app, so unless this person knows I'm a vlogger, which I highly doubt, like, unless you're sending me a direct message to my inbox, like my email, just to want to stimulate a conversation, you know, for me to make a vlog about it, I think you're wasting your time asking me these things, because no, I'm not interested. I will never be interested. It's not going to change. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not. I'm not a switch. I know there are people within the world of BDSM who may identify, let's say, as a submissive, but then they say, oh, I switch and I become a dom. I'm not really that kind of switch. Now, I did mention this before, that if I do switch, the only switch is not going to be between, like, power dynamic, right? From a sub to a dom and vice versa. It's more so switching between developmental age within a submissive, right? So for me, I may be a 16-year-old submissive developmentally, like in my mind, when I'm relating to a man that can tap into that, because not every man can tap into that, though. That's the thing. It's just like, certain men got it, certain men don't. It's usually the dominant alpha male men who got it. Most men, unfortunately, in our society, they are not alpha men, so they just do not have it. It's something that cannot be taught. And that's what gets me, because I'll have men that be like, oh, what do you look for in a man? You know, and it's like, even if I was to tell you I like a dominant man, which should be clear, then you go, oh, well, what's a dominant man? You don't even know what a dominant man is. Even if I was to tell you, it's just like, it's not something you can become. It's either you got it or you don't. That's just like the it factor. Some people got it, some people just don't. So for me, like, it's like the 16-year-old, or let's say sometimes 12-year-old. It just depends. 12-year-old submissive, and then sometimes just me in my current age, 37 years old, submissive. But it's still submissive. It's not really like me switching roles, right? So that's not really what I'm interested in. And like I said, it's very, like, I cringe. And I want to know men who are into this, like, why? One can also think that, from a psychological perspective, that these men want to validate their emasculation. As harsh as it may sound, right? As harsh as emasculation may sound, some men are okay with giving up their masculinity, just as some women are okay with giving up their femininity, right? Like, I think that it's not in our best interest to just assume that people want to present and dwell in the role that's associated with their assigned sex at birth, right? Not every, just because a person was born a male doesn't mean that he wants to wallow and embrace his masculinity. Maybe he wants to give it up, and I think perhaps that could be part of the reason why men like to have their balls stepped on by women wearing heels. Because you ain't gonna tell me that no injury is going to be left after a woman steps on a man's balls wearing heels. How is that even possible? Like, you are not gonna get up from there and not have your shit busted. And I got a heavy hand, not only a heavy hand, but I have heavy feet too. I'm just solid all the way around. So you're gonna end up in a hospital. Like, are you trying to put yourself in the hospital? Getting your balls stepped on? I'm just sitting here trying to make sense of it. Are you trying to make yourself infertile so that you're not able to reproduce? You're giving up that ability as a man? Perhaps you've had your balls kicked in before by accident and you're like, God damn, this shit hurt. But then you're like, a few minutes later, you're like, God damn, this shit feel kind of good. Pain and pleasure is something that is pretty fascinating. I think it's an interesting area of study. I think that it really is understudied, that's something that I think we should talk about a lot more, and if more people can come to the forefront and be able to share their experiences on what it's like as a masochist, as a sadist. I think we all have those qualities within us, though. I think we all have a bit of masochism and sadism in us. It's in us. It's just the question is how much of it, how much of that those characteristics are in us. What kind of dosage do we have that is lying dormant in our subconscious mind, but it's there. That's why some of y'all mean as shit and you be doing things to harm people, and you derive pleasure from seeing other people hurt. And so we can watch a movie, a film, or videos on social media, and people are really getting themselves fucked up by somebody, getting beat up, or accidentally slipping and falling, busting their ass, and we laugh, and it's just like we derive pleasure from seeing other people in pain. Person can really be hurt, and we will sit there and just laugh like, how is that funny? How are you deriving pleasure from that? So I think we all have that sadistic quality in us. And the same thing with masochism too. I think that so to a certain extent we like pain. That's why we find ourselves in situations we're like, how the fuck? Why am I here? Like, why am I in this kind of relationship, right? Because your ass like being mistreated, but it's different degrees of, being a masochist, right, and receiving pain from someone. You know, it can be emotional pain. So some people like to be humiliated. They get off from that. For me, I don't like emotional pain. For me, it's physical. All physical, not emotional. No, don't come with that emotional shit with me, you know, playing those kind of fucked up ass games, humiliation games, and berating. And, you know, some men kind of misconstrue their interpretation of what it means for me to be submissive, you know, and then like thinking that I like to be called a bitch. No. That's a turn off, right? So on that note, I will end this video here. I welcome your feedback. I'm just curious as to who's tried this as a man. What was it like? Don't be too vulgar. Some of y'all be very explicit in the comment section. I'm just like, hold on. You know, it's a way that you can say it, you know, so that you ain't gotta be too grossed out, you know. Don't gross people out. But I'm curious, you know. I would imagine like some guys probably will need to get stitches after that. It's like, god damn, yo. Ouch, 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 ouch. But who am I? Who am I to say anything? Because like I say, I like to get disciplined spankings, and I just like the feeling. I like, you know, when it's at the point where it's just like borderline bruise, you know what I'm saying? Like, not where it's like bruise, but it's just like, okay, it could potentially leave bruises, but not too bad, you know what I'm saying? Not like, god damn, girl, who did that shit to your ass? Like, not like that, you know what I'm saying? It's always, it's a line you draw, but this is, you know, I think it's good to be able to, like I said, to delve into this, to know yourself, to know what you like, you know, and to just kind of play around with certain things, you know, because it's fun, you know. It's like, why do people get body piercings, you know? That can be considered self-harm, you know. I know this like can be a very controversial, touchy topic, but it's just like, where do we draw the line, you know? Who are you to judge? Because some of y'all get on here and want to judge, you know. But some of y'all got tattoos all over your body. Now, I don't have no tattoos, but I did go all out when I was 18 years old, and I got my tongue pierced 3 times. Both of my eyebrows pierced. You know, I had like 5 some holes of each ear. My navel pierced. Like, I went all out. But on that note, I will catch you guys later. I welcome your comments. Keep it real. Keep it 100. Catch you guys on the other side.